Good evening and welcome to the Let's Play Hockey Show. Wally Shaver along with Doug Johnson. We're coming to you tonight from St. Cloud, Minnesota. And Wally, on tonight's show, we're going to talk all different levels of hockey in St. Cloud, from the little kids all the way to the colleges.
Oh, you bet. We're talking real little kids here, folks. We get a chance to meet Bill Franti later on. We're also going to find out about one of the top rivalries in the state in high school hockey. We're going to take in a little Johnny's hockey, MIAC action, and also Husky hockey, which is real big up here these days.
That's it, so stay tuned. You don't want to miss a feature. That's all coming up next on Let's Play Hockey. Let's Play Hockey is brought to you in part by CCM, more power to your game, by Instant Replay Sports, new and used sports equipment, by Coca-Cola Classic, 1993-94 Future Stars, and by Jim Lupien. Thinking conversion vans? Think Jim Lupien GMC. We're sitting high above the National Hockey Center in St. Cloud, Minnesota, and you look at this beautiful building behind us, Wally, Olympic-size ice sheet, and it's only been open a few years, but really it's kind of the building of the 90s, and it's been a great model for other hockey arenas around the country.
Well, it has, and there was at one point a lot of controversy when this thing was put together with state funds, but it was the first Olympic-size ice sheet in the state of Minnesota, and I think it's blossomed, it's led the way, because we're seeing more of those being built in the state of Minnesota now. And this is a gorgeous facility. The Huskies have done well to grow into the building with 6,000 seats here. Their attendance this year is up over 600 people a game from last year, so it's just a right fit.
Besides St. Cloud State hockey, we'll also look at St. John's University, where a former Husky, John Harrington's the head coach, and he's had the St. John's University hockey team close to the top of the MIAC all season. And also, Wally, when we talk about high school rivalries, we think War Road, Roseau, we think Jefferson, Kennedy, but really there's none bigger than St. Cloud Tech and St. Cloud Apollo. We'll also take a look at that.
Well, it is a well-kept secret, I think, for people outside the St. Cloud area, but it's a war when those two schools get together. We're going to have a chance to talk to the coaches of both those teams and find out a little bit more about that real good rivalry.
You bet. Stay with us. We'll have more from St. Cloud, Minnesota, right after this break. Let's Play Hockey is brought to you in part by Cheney Carpet Distributor and by the Profiler, the handheld skate sharpener.
Welcome back to the National Hockey Center in St. Cloud, and with me now is the head coach of the Huskies, Craig Dahl. And Craig, you know, when you go back to the start of this hockey season, it was a 1-5-2 start for the Huskies. What kind of things went through your mind at that point of the season? Did you think you'd have the turnaround you're enjoying now?
You mean other than suicide? No, actually we had so many games on the road to start the season, and I was really basically pretty happy with the majority of our play. There were a few moments when we didn't play as well as I would have liked us to, but basically we had played pretty well. It's tough to play on the road in this league, and our goaltending was, I knew for a fact, would take a couple of weeks to round into shape because Grant's a slow starter, and the morale of the players was so good that I wasn't too worried.
It was not a concern at that time then?
No, I just figured, you know, we were doing the best we could, and our players had good attitudes, and the practices were very good, and I figured, you know, if this wasn't going to be good enough, then it never would be, because there was nothing I could really complain about.
Well, the momentum has certainly picked up for your followers as well. The attendance is up this year, and you've got a real wild but calm and collected crowd if I can word it that way.
Well, they're pretty raucous. Our student section has really learned how to cheer, I guess I should say. I mean, they have their own section, and they're very tough on opposing goaltenders. And the rest of our fans have picked up on the normal cheers that you'll see at some games. They're pretty good at the Civ cheer and whatnot. But it's a very raucous atmosphere, and certainly more like a party atmosphere than a quiet, staid crowd. So I think it's a real good college atmosphere.
You have a legitimate shot at winning the WCHA title this year. What do you feel you have to do from this point onward?
Oh, other than win every game, we've got to stay healthy. That's been the key for us the past 2 years. Last year we did not stay healthy, and it caused us to drop. And this year we have been healthy, and we've been playing pretty well. Our team defense has been real good this year, especially the second half of the year here. And Grant Shervin and the Nets has been playing very well. And when you get those two things going for you, I think our goals against in the WCHA is the best right now in the league. And when you have that going for you, then you're going to win some hockey games.
Well, about the only injury the Huskies have had this year is Coach Dahl had arthroscopic surgery recently. Well, right now, Doug Johnson is standing by with one of Dahl's students, Kelly Hultgren.
Thanks, Wally. And Kelly, let's take a look a little bit at your road to St. Cloud State. You played at Bloomington Jefferson, then you played 2 years with the Omaha Lancer, the United States Hockey League. And first of all, did you want to play college hockey right out of high school?
Oh, it's everyone's dream, to get something out of high school, but it just wasn't fit for me. I needed some time to mature mentally and physically, mostly physically, and get some more ice time. So I chose the road down to Omaha, Nebraska. I played there for 2 years, and then, like I said, I got to develop, play a lot more games, and was able to step in St. Cloud here.
St. Cloud was a relatively new program as a Division I school back then. Was it tough to kind of come to a new and unestablished program?
No, it's tough, but I guess you got to kind of look at it like, maybe we can be the first people that starts a tradition then, So it didn't have any tradition, so I guess you got to look at it the other way around then if you're coming here, so.
What's your role on this team this season?
Oh, I just, I kind of like to be somewhat offensive, but I think I'm solid defensively too, and just set a good example for everyone. We just got a great bunch of guys here, and we got a solid defensive core, and just working hard and keeping everyone together, I guess.
A few months back, of course, you've known the ups and downs of St. Cloud State hockey, but a few months back you defeated the Golden Gophers in this building, the first time you ever beat the Gophers, and you had a key goal in that game. And tell us a little bit about the feelings after that game.
Well, that was a really special game for me personally because I just gotten back from surgery. I had knee surgery, and I was kind of pushing it to get back to that series, and so happens I got back. I ended up getting a goal and I think an assist in the game, and a first victory over the Ghosts, and that was a big stepping stone, I think, for the beginning of the year and for the Huskies.
I'm sure Coach Dahl doesn't tell you guys to look ahead at all, but do you have your calendar circled for that Gopher rematch here?
Oh, it's those games are always great. You love those games. We got to keep focused, before those games. But when those come, it'll be a barn burner, I'm sure.
All right. Well, that's Kelly Hultgren, one of the stars of the St. Cloud State Huskies. Now we're going to send it over to Wally Shaver, who's talking to a St. John's Johnny, a Division III school, who's always also making headlines in St. Cloud.
I'm standing by now with Chris Belter, one of the defensemen for the St. John's Johnnies, and playing Division III college hockey. It's got to be a pretty good thrill.
Yes, it is. Came from Grand Rapids, and a lot of guys play hockey after their careers up there, and just trying to play mine.
Been a lot of good players coming out of there, but you're in a situation now where there's been a coaching change during your tenure here playing for the Johnnies. What's the difference with John Harrington as a coach this year?
Well, I think you see it in the players. There's a lot more confidence, and people play with a lot better desire this year. You can see it in the play every game that we come out here. It's a big rink, and we're having a lot more fun this year.
You're a team too, Chris, that is contending for the MIAC title. Did you think you'd be in that position when the season got underway?
Well, I knew we had the guys. We've had the capability for, I felt, the last few years, and we just haven't been up there. And I think that's kind of why the coaching change was made, because other people felt the same way. And I guess you see it this year, that we are making a race for it.
It is a tough conference this year because it's more than just a couple of teams that can compete this year. You've got about 6 teams all vying just for 4 playoff spots. How do you see the race shaping up?
Well, it's kind of funny because last year at this time, teams were solidifying a playoff spot. This year we have 19 points, which is in the lead right now, and yet we still haven't made a solid playoff berth yet. So we have to secure one more win out of 4 games, and then we'll be in the playoffs for the first time since, I believe, '87.
Well, that's great. Best of luck along the way, except watch out for those Aggies. I'm a little prejudiced there. Hey, let's go find out what's going on with Chris's coach, who is standing by with Doug Johnson.
I'm joined now by John Harrington, head coach at St. John's University, a Division III program. And John, this is your first season in Division III, and has it been tough to make that step from Division I when you were with the Huskies?
Not really. You know, I was looking forward to the opportunity to coach my own team. That was an exciting thing for me, and actually I've enjoyed it because it's a lot of players that maybe haven't developed to their full potential yet, and that's probably why they're playing at Division III, and it's a chance for me to teach hockey as well as coach it, and I enjoy the teaching part of it, the practices, and seeing players get better. So it's been everything that I've expected and more.
What's your biggest challenge?
Well, I think my biggest challenge actually is probably doing all the other things that we weren't used to doing at the Division I level. In Division I, you coached and you recruited, and then you got on the bus and they told you where you were going. Here, I'm ordering the bus, I'm ordering the lunches, I'm ordering the equipment, and it's been a great experience for me to learn those parts of the game that I really haven't had a chance to do at the Division I level. And regardless of the coaching, I'm going to be I think a better administrator when I get done with this opportunity.
Let's say the last decade in the MIAC, you always hear St. Thomas and Gustavus as some of the schools on top, and St. John's hasn't been up there for a few years, and you really have the Johnnies right now right in the thick of the pack in the MIAC.
Yeah, we've got off to a good start. The beginning of the year, we took a few games in our non-conference part of the schedule to kind of evaluate all the players. I had to kind of see what we had in game situations, and then when we got into the regular season, we got off to a good start, beating St. Olaf twice and then sweeping Gustavus, which was the first time that had ever happened in St. John's hockey history. So I think we gained a lot of confidence in our abilities in the first part of the schedule there. We have some good players, and we've gotten some outstanding performances by some upperclassmen as well as by some freshmen who've stepped in and done a great job for us.
Just switching gears a little bit, of course, we're right in the midst of the Olympics right now, and you played on the 1980 U.S. team who won a gold medal, and you still have to have fond memories of that.
Yeah, the great thing, Doug, about the Olympics is that it comes around every 4 years, this time 2 years because they're changing the cycle, but that always comes up, and you can see something about the 80 team, and it brings back great memories, and as time goes on, it's become, very important to me, a very proud moment where, at the time, maybe as a young college player, you kind of looked at it like, well, you took it for granted, like, well, this was supposed to happen, what'd you expect, we were going to lose? But now it's, I see after the Olympics have gone on a few times that it's a tremendous accomplishment. It's tough to do, and it's just nice that it comes around all the time where you can relish in that and see that you had some great success.
Well, that's John Harrington. A lot of fond memories of the Olympics, and also hopefully he'll have fond memories at St. John's University. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk high school hockey in St. Cloud, Minnesota. This week's Future Stars Tip with Gopher head coach Doug Woog is brought to you by Coca-Cola Classic and your Twin Cities Newmarket stores.
Well, here we have the goaltender, probably the most important position in hockey. Last week we talked about the ready position for the hockey players. Today we're going to talk about the ready position for the goaltender. We'll be back in just a minute. Today we're going to talk about goaltending. We've got a young fella here that's got nice equipment that fits him, which is very, very important. Let's look at some of the equipment. First, the stick. Let's show him the stick, the size of the stick, the height of the stick. Notice how it nicely fits right under his chin so he can handle it both to the left and the right. If it's too long, it'll get stuck in the net. Okay, his blocker fits him perfectly. Look at your hand glove. Very nice. Show him that hand glove, how it catches those pucks, all right? Got a good helmet, good face mask, pads that are not too big. He can move in them. Let's start with a ready position, just like we do with the regular hockey players, okay? Notice how he's got his knees bent here. Excellent. Got his chest up. He's got his inside edges. Boy, he's ready to stop a puck. Just look at that thing over there, huh? Wow. Show him your movement in your glove, how you catch him. How do you use the blocker? Boom. How do you use your stick? Oh, look at that. See, he knows how to cut those rebounds down just like that. Over here with the puck, over there with the puck. All right, not too bad. Looks pretty good to me. Give me your ready position again, okay? Eyes on that puck, see? He's gonna watch that puck right into the glove, aren't you? Make sure he gets it, then what do? You shut it up, and they're done. Not too bad. Would you like to have me take a shot at you? All right, get ready for one here. Okay. All right, there he is.
Let's Play Hockey is brought to you in part by CCM. CCM, more power to your game.
Welcome back to the show, and now we have switched sites, going from the National Hockey Center to the Municipal Sports Center on the other side of town here in St. Cloud. And I tell you, when you talk about rivalries, there is a big one heating up, and we're talking now with Steve Hadia, who is the head coach of St. Cloud Tech. And this is a big game coming up tonight as you play Apollo. And obviously the big rivalry, something everybody is looking for.
It's always a big game for the kids. They grow up playing with each other and against each other all the way up to the youth programs. And when you get to high school, it just means a little bit more for them.
They make that separation. Some kids go to Apollo, some over to Tech. How has the rivalry gone in the past few years? Do you have a leg up?
Apollo's held the upper hand in overall history of the rivalry.
Now, it won't be too long either, Steve. Then you got the section playoffs coming up. So it's actually a couple of meetings that are shaping up here in a matter of just a few weeks.
Yeah, it kind of looks like we'll probably play Apollo in the first round of the playoffs, which is the 22nd, 2 weeks from tonight. So it could be a preview of that game, yes.
Now, you've kind of been growing up here in the town. You played collegiate hockey with St. Cloud State. Was it always an ambition to continue into the coaching ranks for you?
I actually grew up on the Iron Range, and then I came down here and played college at St. Cloud State, like you said, and I kind of got into the program with Steve Hansen, who was the head coach at that time, and he kind of took me under his wing and showed me the ropes, I guess, of coaching and making that transition, and the job opened up, and I was fortunate enough to be in a position to get it.
Well, he's got his team in a first year over a 500 record, which is a great start. Now let's go to Doug Johnson and meet his crosstown rival.
Thanks, Wally, and I'm joined now by the head coach of St. Cloud Apollo, Jim Michaud. And Jim, you've been here about 6 or 7 years now. You coached Corey Leyland as a senior, and he, of course, went on to play for the Gophers, and now he's playing pro hockey in Europe. Name some of the other players who have come through this Apollo program that maybe further their career in hockey after high school.
Well, John Schmidt played 4 years at Notre Dame and was a captain at Notre Dame. He's gone through. Corey, of course, there's a number of players I could go through that have played in the MIAC, played at Division III level, but Corey is the one that comes to mind probably as the premier player in the not too recent past, although Kelly Reeder now is playing at St. Cloud State, and he also is a very fine hockey player.
Tell us a little bit about this year's team. Who are some of your key players?
Well, I think probably the person that will attract the most attention is number 16, is a junior captain for us, Wes Ruprecht. He's one of the fastest hockey players I've seen in my 25 years of coaching. He's a real talent. We have another captain that's senior, Jeremy Bouch, is a very, very good and strong hockey player. He looks good. We're really a young team. We've got a lot of juniors playing for us, and we've got another year of development yet.
Of course, now we have the Class A and AA state tournament. You're in Section 8. You're going to face the likes of Moorhead or Elk River, and kind of an interesting playoff format this year.
Well, the section is so big, runs all the way from Elk River and Buffalo, all the way out to Wilmer, all the way up to Moorhead, Fergus Falls, that we've split it into East and West. And so the 8 AA teams are split into an East and West divisions of 4. And we will seed 1 through 4 in the East and the West. Quarterfinals will be within the division, and then semifinals and the finals of the section will be a crossover.
And then, of course, those finals will be back here at the National Hockey Center, and St. Cloud Apollo hopes to be there. Let's send it over now to Wally Shaver, who's standing by with the godfather of hockey in St. Cloud.
Well, now you've had a chance to take a look at some of the high school coaches. With me now is Bill Franti, who is a man who has coached just about everybody that's come up at one point or another through the St. Cloud program. And you go back over the years, who are some of the big names that you've brought along?
Well, a number of the kids, we have a number of kids go on to play Division I hockey, and those of you who are familiar with Gopher hockey will be familiar with Steve Orth and Corey Leyland, two of the kids that went on to play for the Gophers. We got Kelly Reeder and playing for the Huskies here right now. Danny O'Shea just finished their career with the Huskies. And we've had a number of kids that go to school like Army and Colorado and different places around. And there's been a number. We've probably had about 12 or 15 kids. We've even had a couple go up to Alaska Anchorage to play Division I up there in Anchorage's program, Carlson and Hiltner.
Well, you've been around this program for quite a few years now. Your kids are long gone out of the program, but what keeps you going with it?
Well, you got to stay young one way or another, and I guess there's an old adage, you know, if you want to stay young and feel young, do young things. And I guess doing things with young people makes you feel that way.
You know, you talk about young people. Now, this is a great story. You have a clinic that you run a couple of times a week here for real young kids. We're talking 2- and 3-year-olds. How the heck do you get them to pay attention?
It's really, you got to kind of play kid games with them. And the first things that you try to teach them, and they listen, surprisingly, the two most important things to learn to become a hockey player are to use your eyes and your ears.
Yeah.
And we challenge them with that every day, and they seem to remember and they pick up on that. And if they can walk and get skates on, we can get them skating in a very short order.
Well, and it's obviously worked quite well. There's been some real speedsters coming out of this town. Bill Franti has a lot to do with the St. Cloud Youth Hockey Program. Well, don't go away, because we're going to be back in just a moment to wrap things up here from the Granite City.
Wally, in about a month, this place is going to be rocking when the Gophers come to town for this big rivalry that's really developed between the Huskies and the Gophers over the last couple of years.
Well, and I can't wait to see it, Doug, because the last regular season series in the WCHA this year will feature St. Cloud in Minnesota. Friday night it's in Gopherdom, and Saturday night the regular season ends right here in St. Cloud. And I can't think of a better way for the WCHA race to end than to have it decided here on that final game of the year. And it could very well involve both those teams.
I think so, and I think the person that really was behind this idea was Herb Brooks, and he might have had some thoughts from John Mariucci on how to get more Division I schools in the state of Minnesota. In the event down the line, you'd have some great rivalries like this and great series.
Well, it is. It's turned out to be a turnpike series, and you know, I've always believed in that philosophy of getting more schools and more teams in Division I hockey right here in the state of Minnesota. Hopefully someday we can see the same thing happen with a Mankato and possibly a Bemidji, but it's great that this community has gone for it. As we said earlier, the attendance has picked up. St. Cloud has really established itself as a solid hockey community nowadays.
You bet, Wally, from top to bottom, from the youth to the colleges, and it's developed into a great hockey town. Well, that'll just about do it for this week's show. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. Let's Play Hockey was brought to you in part by Instant Replay Sports, new and used sports equipment. Wardrobe for the Let's Play Hockey show was provided by Uggs Footwear and by Dave's Sports Shop, the Upper Midwest's largest hockey dealer. Grand Caravan is Let's Play Hockey's official travel vehicle provided by Town & Country Dodge in Hopkins.